I'm calling the zoning board. So we can move on. In a moment, you will be sworn in with Meredith, and everything you say will be recorded in this meeting. When your item is called, please speak clearly into the microphone with your name and address, because everything is recorded. After that, Scott from Development Services will read the report. And then, since I've already said Scott Riel, to my right is Development Services, and to my left is James Saunders, our Assistant City Attorney. The two to my right and the three to my left and myself are all citizens of Pompano Beach, and we're volunteering our time. At this time, if anyone is going to speak, please stand to be sworn in by Meredith.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Also, I forgot the Meredith behind the glass there. She's the one who keeps us in line. Thank you. All right, so the first one is 26-17000003.
Thank you, all honorable member here. Thanks, everyone. My agenda for today, I have a special exception to.
If you just want to state your name and spell it for the record and acknowledge that you've been sworn in, and I'll do the staff report first, and then you can.
Okay, my name is Mahitosh Devnath, and the address is 1952 Northeast 49 Street, Pompano Beach, Florida 33064.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is case 26-17000003. The applicant landowner is requesting special exception approval as required by section 1554222L1 of the Pompano Beach Zoning Code in order to utilize the subject property, which is zoned B3, for a local liquor or package store. The subject property is located along the south side of Northeast 49th Street between Northeast 19th Terrace and North Federal Highway in the Highlands. The subject property is a small commercial plaza consisting of two businesses, a restaurant, Costa's Greek Eatery and Pizzeria at 1940 Northeast 49th Street, and a convenience store called Discount Beverage and Food at 1952 Northeast 49th Street. The convenience store is already approved to sell beer and wine, which is the 2 APS license, which is permitted by right. However, the business owner seeks to expand their alcoholic beverage license by offering packaged liquor sales. The zoning code differentiates between local liquor stores and regional liquor stores. A local liquor store has a gross floor area of less than 7,500 square feet. A regional liquor store is essentially the same use, but has a gross floor area of at least 7,500 square feet. If the proposed tenant bay had an additional 5,500 square feet, the liquor store use would be permitted by right because it would be considered a regional liquor store. Ordinance 2016-48 modified the definitions and separation requirements of certain alcoholic beverage establishments. For example, a liquor or a package store was divided into two distinct categories, as I just mentioned: local liquor, less than 7,500 square feet; regional liquor, greater than 7,500 square feet. Local liquor store requires special exception approval in all commercial zoning districts, whereas a regional liquor store requires special exception approval only in the B1 and B2 commercial districts. These text amendments were initiated in part to limit the concentration of liquor stores in blighted areas. A local liquor store is subject to certain separation requirements, including being at least 1,000 feet from another local liquor store or sexually oriented business, and a minimum of 500 feet from a child care facility, school, or place of worship. All separation requirements were verified when the applicant applied for a zoning use certificate, and there is in your backup a map of what are the current packaged liquor stores throughout the city of Pompano Beach. You can see, if I can put it up on the overhead if you would like, but you all have it in your backup. It looks like the nearest other liquor store is about a little over a mile away, and there's a school, I believe it's Norcrest Elementary, about 3/4 of a mile away. Those are the two closest uses that have separation requirements. They meet both requirements. There are currently 2 code enforcement cases associated with the subject property, and the details of those are included in the agenda backup for informational purposes, but they have been updated, and we do have with us tonight Mr. Mario Sotolongo, Code Compliance Director, who can speak on those matters, but just note that the code enforcement matters shall be resolved in accordance with city requirements and do not in and of themselves preclude consideration of the requested special exception. And actually, the code enforcement cases are specific to either the subject property or the adjacent restaurant, not this particular convenience store. Just wanted to note that for the record. There are 13 special exception review standards. The applicant addressed each of them in their narrative, which you have in your backup. And should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent, substantial evidence sufficient to satisfy those 13 special exception review standards, staff requests the board include the following condition as part of the order. 1, obtain all necessary governmental permits and approvals, including zoning use certificate and a business tax receipt. I did want to also note that there is one letter of objection to this application. It's included in the backup, and that concludes my report. And again, if you have any questions about the code issues, we have Mr. Sotolongo who's available. Otherwise, I'm done.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, before the applicant speaks, if it's possible, because I don't know if the applicant has had an opportunity to look at that map, Scott, if you would, and I know the board has, maybe for the purposes of the applicant, you could put it on the screen? Sure. And explain your earlier comments, if you would.
So you'll see the subject property is the northernmost dot in the city of Pompano Beach, and there's virtually nothing else in the Highlands until you get to Sample and Federal.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I don't understand. Yeah, I'm having this convenience store past 2 years, and soon I open that store. Like I have every day 10, 12 customer, 15 customer for the liquor. So that case, I want to like adding liquor for the customer demand.
Hold on.
Okay.
Anything else?
And that's it more or less for the customer demand. I want to add liquor, that's it. But I never having problem. I'm doing like convenience store business like past 20 years. And this is my first time to for the special exception.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone that would like to speak that is for the petition? Is there anyone that would like to speak against the petition?
Against the petition.
Closed to the public. Board discussion.
I have a question for Scott.
Yep.
Scott, can you confirm that this liquor store would be allowed if it was a larger square footage? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, that's correct. By right, if it's 7,500 square feet in the B3 zoning district, it would
How
be.
many square feet is it?
I believe it's about 20, do you know the,
I think 22.
2,500 maybe? I think it was in the,
Yeah, right.
I think it's in the floor plan.
So would another, get the language right, would if another regional liquor store wanted to open in the vicinity, would they still be able to do it without coming to the board?
If this gets approved prior to that, then yes. But if a regional liquor store was within the distance, then
Right.
then that would preclude this applicant, yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, maybe Scott, you can answer a question I have on the aerial map. I'm looking at the notice or the letter from the neighboring laundromats that
Yes.
opposed it. Which location on the aerial map is it?
Let's see, they are located at 2020 Northeast 49th Street, so that would be,
Bring back.
where is that? In relation,
He said he was next door. The building next door.
it probably is, yeah, right immediately to the east, right?
It's in the same shopping center?
Not exactly, no, it's separate parcel, but a little bit closer to Federal Highway, I believe.
Okay.
Just east. The next,
Just east, yeah.
yeah, just east, the next parcel over.
Meredith knows the area much better than I do.
Any other questions?
I had a quick one. In your written response to the standards, you said the addition of liquor sales is not expected to significantly increase traffic volumes or alter traffic patterns. Have you done any kind of a traffic analysis or study or anything comparative to know what the traffic would be
Not really.
for liquor? No? Okay.
Any other questions? May I get a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion. In planning and zoning case number 26-17-000003, I move we find there's confident and substantial evidence in the record that all requirements for granting the special exception have been met, and we grant the special exception subject to the one condition requested by staff.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, thank you. Meredith, can you please call the roll?
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
Nicole Henniger,
Yes.
Karen Berger,
Yes.
Jack A. Hawkins,
Yes.
Allison Morales,
Yes.
Joe Circuzzi.
Yes,
Thank you. so much.
Passed.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Okay, the next one is 26-11000006. Please speak into the microphone with your name and address, and then Scott will take over. Thank you.
Hi, My name is Yoan Bobat. The address is 1711 Northeast 2nd Terrace in Pompano.
Okay.
ahead, Scott.
Sworn in.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And this 26-11-000006, the applicant landowner requests a variance from section 155-3203C of the Pompano Beach Zoning Code, which establishes the intensity and dimensional standards for the RS2 zoning district. The variance would allow for an addition to the existing single-family dwelling to encroach 6.42 feet into the required 20-foot rear yard setback, resulting in a rear setback of 15.58 feet from the rear lot line. The subject property is located on the west side of Northeast 2nd Terrace between Northeast 17th Court and Northeast 17th Street within the Kendall Green subdivision. The subject property contains a single-family dwelling constructed in 1960 pursuant to Broward County Building Permit 60-788. The residence includes 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a swimming pool. The structure was originally approved under Broward County's R1C zoning designation and was subsequently rezoned to RS2 following annexation into the city of Pompano Beach in 1979 via Ordinance 80-38. The applicant proposes to construct a 306 square foot addition to the rear of the principal dwelling. The proposed addition would encroach 6.42 feet into the required 20-foot rear yard setback, resulting in a rear setback of 13.58 feet from the rear lot line. According to the applicant's narrative, the addition is relatively minor in scale and would utilize a flat roof design intended to minimize potential visual or shading impacts on adjacent properties. The swimming pool and carport are located along the south interior side of the property, which limits opportunities for expansion in that direction and effectively restricts additions to the rear portion of the structure. Due to the placement of the existing dwelling, the proposed addition would largely be screened from view from the public right-of-way along Northeast 2nd Terrace and is unlikely to significantly alter the visual character of the streetscape. The subject property currently has an open code compliance case that's 24-09005019, unrelated to the variance request. Additionally, staff identified a laundry room addition constructed without permits that encroaches into the required interior side yard setback on the north side of the property. The applicant has indicated that the structure will either be removed or modified to comply with the required side yard setback. There are 8 variance review standards. The applicant has addressed each of these in his narrative that's provided in your backup, and should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent and substantial evidence to satisfy those 8 variance review standards, staff recommends the board include the following conditions as part of the order. 1, the applicant shall obtain all necessary governmental permits and approvals, including building and zoning compliance permits. 2, address all code enforcement issues associated with case 24-09005019 to the satisfaction of the special magistrate and code compliance director. And the 3rd recommended condition, the applicant shall remove the unpermitted laundry room or reduce its setback so that it does not encroach into the interior side yard setback. That concludes my report, and again, Mario Sotolongo is here if you have any questions about the code case that's open.
Go ahead.
Scott pretty much said everything. I don't have much to add other than when the owner bought this house, he had purchased it unknowingly with a laundry room on the north side, already passing over the property line. So that's going to get taken down. And I had a really hard time figuring out a place to add the bedroom because in the front is not really a realistic space. Plus, it comes at an angle. And the original property was not actually built on the full property line, so there's not enough room anywhere to add a room. Because there is a wall between the house and the street on the south side, and because we're not building higher, we're actually building at the minimum that we can, like Scott said, with a flat roof. You can't see it from the street. You can't see it with the neighbors. The neighbor happens to have a beautiful big tree, so we really feel that it's a pretty harmless necessity.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. If there's anyone that would like to speak that is for the petition? Is there anyone that would like to speak against the petition? All right, it's been closed to the public. Board discussion.
How long has the property owner owned this property?
Since 2023,
And how many bedrooms are there now?
3? I think it's a 3-bedroom right now.
And what's the purpose of the addition?
Well, the real purpose of the addition is that the laundry room has to get taken down, and there's no room in the house for a laundry room. So, and we can't just build a laundry room, so we wanted to take advantage of having to build a structure to build it a little bit larger to include a guest room or another bedroom.
And remind me or elaborate on why this property has special conditions that,
Okay. Are you?
I mean, I've got the narrative here, but I'm just trying to wrap my head around why there's extraordinary and exceptional conditions for this lot that,
Yeah.
it's nearly a square lot.
So, are you looking at the plan? Okay. So, do you see you see it in color with the red dotted lines? So you see on the street side, you see how it's angled like that, right? So there's nothing I can really do there. Okay. So that place is dead. Then the space between the property and the setback, that's only like 5 feet. So I can't do anything there. On the south side, I can't do anything. On the back, I could have just asked for an administrative review, but to really do something worth doing, I'm gonna have to go over that review by a few inches. So the reason for this variance is really for those extra few inches that I need. That's the way that I understood it. So that's what the city asked, and that's what we did. It was no big deal. It was
Well,
one
the
application.
code requires a 20-foot setback,
20-foot rear setback, so,
and we're at 13.58 and 14.28.
right, they could,
It's a little more than a few inches.
No, then I misspoke. So you asked why was this so extraordinary? So the non-extraordinary version of this is something called an administrative review, which would allow, the city does allow for X amount of going over just setback without doing a variance.
God, how much is that?
that would be, that's called a minor administrative adjustment. It allows up to a 20% deviation that's reviewed and approved by staff, ultimately by the Development Services Director. With a 20-foot required setback, that would allow up to 4 feet. So it could be as close as, if approved, 16 feet to the rear lot line administratively. The applicant wanted a little bit more, to be a little bit closer, so that exceeds the 20%. So a variance was the next.
What are the dimensions of this lot compared to the dimensions of adjacent lots in the immediate vicinity?
Oh,
It's like 180 by 70, I think. Oh, 108 by 70. Am I correct? Scott?
On the south side, it looks like 108 by 70, and on the north
Yes,
side,
so
126
126, because of that angle.
7 by 70. So I'm just wondering if the adjacent lots are more like 108 by 70, or if they're more like 126 by 70.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. Since it is, I like it. So yeah, most likely since it's at the south corner, then the houses north of it would have geometrically larger lots. I couldn't talk about the actual square footage though.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm wondering. Is,
Yeah.
Are the, I'm looking just at the property appraiser here, and I see a variety of size and shape lots, but it almost looks like this lot on that angled front portion makes the lot larger than, say, the lot behind it, or immediately west of it, as opposed to smaller.
Of unusable space.
No, well, usable or unusable, just looking on the property appraiser, which isn't the easiest to measure on.
right.
It looks like this lot is actually, the lots on the whole block look like they're all a little bit different in size and configuration, but if this lot were squared off on the east end, it looks like it would be about the same size as any other lot on the block.
Of unusable space.
Of unusable or unusable, just looking on the property appraiser, which isn't the easiest to measure on. Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yes.
So from that perspective, I'm just trying to wrap my head around why this is an exceptional circumstance.
It's in my opinion, it's exceptional not due to the small size. It's for whatever reason, the original builder built this house not going up to the property lines, but only touching the bottom property line, putting a pool there, which is an awkward place for a pool where there should have been a bedroom, right? And now I have all this extra space around and can't do anything. So I don't know if there's a process to give up buildable space in the front and transfer it to the back. I'd be happy to do that, right? The issue is just how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to fit this square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
And so when I look at it and I look at the zoning variance criteria, I'm trying to justify why there are special exceptional conditions with this property that warrant us voting in favor of the variance. And so when I look at the property, if the front yard were squared off and didn't have that little addition of green space, which, is a plus, if it didn't have that addition of green space, it'd still be comparable to, say, the lot immediately behind it.
I don't understand how so.
The subject, this is according to the Broward County Property Appraiser. It's 8,225 square feet. The property to the north, 9,722 square feet.
Property to the west.
Property to the west, 7,703. And the property to the south, 9,564.
Right,
So
the
they're all-
one to the north and the south are corner lots that are a little bit more uniquely shaped. But for example, the lot immediately to the west and across the street from that are all pretty consistent dimensions. This lot actually looks a little larger because it has that front triangular piece. And so, what I'm just hearing is they recently bought the property and want a bigger property, a bigger structure than what they bought.
They want to place a laundry room in the back. That's what it is. There's an illegal laundry room, and the city is asking us to come up with a solution to be able to demolish this laundry room without,
Is that the little box, the red around it? Is that the one, Scott?
No, the laundry room is on the north side, the north lot line, which is the,
Yeah.
yeah.
So where the red is where they
Right.
want the addition.
And once they put the addition, how much is left, the the foot from the fence to
it's-
their property line?
13.58 feet from the,
Looking at their aerial map,
So it's 3 feet, right, difference?
this lot, this lot, this lot,
3 foot.
You guys are,
basically the same as this lot if this were squared off.
Can you confirm that's a 4-bedroom or a 3-bedroom? On Zillow, it says it's a 4-bedroom.
yeah, the
2 bath.
property appraiser also says it's a 4-bedroom, and it was CO'd as a 4-bedroom, but of course that was in 1960 under Broward County, so.
I
it's gonna
only
change.
saw 3 bedrooms. I don't know if we have to show a video of the house or
so Scott, my question was, so 13, the city is okay with 16, so it's 3 feet kind of is what we're playing with, am I correct? You allowed
are
20%?
correct, yes. You could-
Okay.
If administratively approved, you could encroach 4 feet, so that would
Okay.
be 16 feet.
So what about the west side where the air conditioner is? Why couldn't they build on to the back side where there's almost 25 feet?
Sorry, where?
So,
That's the front side.
you mean,
Front side's with the driveway, isn't it?
yeah, along
side's
Northeast
Right, so
Second
what's the
Terrace.
other side with the AC? Is that the back, that's west side?
That's the north side, the interior side
Okay.
yard on the north side.
Right.
That doesn't really have,
We have 5 feet of space there to build.
yeah.
And exterior walls are built out of CMU bricks, so they're almost like a foot wide.
I just want to remind the board, I'm not sure if questions are being asked of the applicant or if this is board discussion with the staff. Just want to be clear about where we are in this discussion and the questioning that's going forward. Just so the applicant
Yeah.
understands, your responses are based upon questions that are asked versus additional arguments in support. At least that's what I'm trying to find out from this board.
So my question was specifically relative to, sorry. Many things open here. One sec. My question is specifically relative to variance review standard A. There are extraordinary and exceptional conditions such as topographic conditions, narrowness, shallowness, or the shape of the parcel of land pertaining to the particular land or structure for which the variance is sought that do not generally apply to other lands or structures in the vicinity. And what we're being told is that because the structure is somewhat not square, it's an exceptional condition. But when I look at the structure, on the south side, it was about 108 feet long, and on the north side, it's about 128 feet long. The other properties in the vicinity, behind this property and across the street, all have a north and south property line that is about 108 feet by 70 feet. So,
Let me interrupt you, Ms. Cott. If the information you're referring to is information that staff has provided it to you as evidence surrounding this application, there is no problem in its reference. If, however, you are relying on something that is not before us, my suggestion is going back to the analysis that you are involved in as to the criteria and whether or not this particular applicant satisfies that criteria.
understood. So looking at the aerial map provided by the applicant as opposed to measuring it on the property appraiser's site, it appears that the adjacent lots are actually smaller than this lot. If this lot had been squared off, they'd be comparable in size. So the assertion that this lot being a rhomboid shape as opposed to a rectangle warrants meets that criteria, actually just gives this lot, in my opinion, additional green space. It doesn't necessarily justify meeting that criteria. I think I said enough.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I was just realized that this is in the CRA, which is a designated brownfield area. So the administrative relief, you can ask for up to 30% of a yard setback. So that would push it to 6. You could do 6 feet. So you'd be as close as 14 feet. So now we're only talking about half a foot for the variance request.
That's what I remember. Thank you.
Yeah. So 0.42 feet would be the actual request if you assume that the administrative adjustment would be granted.
Any other discussion? All right.
Actually, I have a question. I'm sorry, with regards to that laundry room, he's mentioned that it has to be demolished because it's already non-conforming. Is that going to happen anyway, despite?
Yeah, that.
So it's not, okay.
That's good. That has to
Has to. I
happen
just wanted to
regardless.
confirm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, regardless, okay.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, just for
Yes.
purposes of what this board may have to consider, whether it be whether it's approving or not approving the variance request that's being made, based upon what Scott has mentioned, is there, maybe the applicant wants to reconsider whether or not this variance application is even necessary or should be postponed with the intent of understanding that there may be an administrative remedy to their concern, rather than going forward now, because if you go forward now and there's a denial, then that denial is now in effect. So again, I don't know if the applicants had an opportunity to discuss that issue and whether or not there may be some other consideration for this board. as it relates to that.
I have a quick question. If the special, or the variance is denied, does that preclude him from seeking the administrative remedy?
I do not believe so, but
No, not at all. They can still apply for administrative. Now, there's no guarantee, but you don't have to prove a non-self-imposed hardship like you do for a variance. Yeah.
And yes, I did know this before. I did not communicate it properly. But we did specifically choose to do a variance for those extra few inches because it's already pretty tight. And in my mind, I thought it was pretty straightforward. This wasn't explicitly said, and I did just want to add one thing. The pool, which normally is allowed to be built outside of the house without any special requests, was actually built inside. So this is all outdoor area where it says CONC Terrace, and that whole rectangle is actually outdoor space. So essentially what's going on is we have a home that's built, it's using about 60 to maybe 70% of the space is all the neighbors, right? Because this is the way they decided to do it. So I believed that by requesting this variance and those extra few inches, I could rebalance the ratio of building to property. So just to be clear, we are not overbuilding in any way. This is my factual opinion, I think.
Did the applicant put the pool in, or did he buy it that
No,
way?
I bought it with him. Yeah, it's just an old design when space wasn't that important.
So Scott, it's just half a foot.
That's
That's it.
Technically 0.42 based on the 13.58. Yeah.
All right. Any discussion? All right. Meredith, can you, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion. In P and Z case 25-11000006, I move we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all the requirements for granting the variance have been met, and that we grant the variance subject to the, thank you, 3 conditions requested by staff.
It's actually 26-11000006.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you for,
2025.
should I reread it?
Oh, all right, I corrected it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second? All right. Any further discussion? All right, thank you. Meredith, can you call the roll?
Who was the second?
Me.
Thank you. Karen Berger,
Yes.
Nicole Henniger,
Yes.
Penny Cutt,
No.
Jack A. Hawkins,
Yes.
Allison Morales,
No.
Joe Circuzzi.
Yes. It didn't pass.
Oh, it didn't pass? Oh, no.
Has to be
You need
5.
out of 6 votes.
Oh, no.
2 no votes. Yeah.
Oh, I wish I had more time to argue. That's it? That's the ruling?
Yes.
Okay, so
Thank
then now we have to do the administrative review? For 6 inches? Okay.
Thank you. All right, the next one is 26-1-11000008. State your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Jim Frogner. I'm the agent for the applicant, Dr. Laura.
Your address.
I live in Stewart, Florida. My address is 3402 Southeast Clubhouse Place.
Thank you. Scott?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant landowner is requesting a variance from section 1555102D1, which are the minimum number of off-street parking spaces of the Pompano Beach zoning code, to permit a reduction in the required number of parking spaces from 11 to 2. The variance request is based on a proposed 2,179 square foot medical office use, which requires 1 parking space per 200 square feet pursuant to code. The subject property is located along the south side of East Atlantic Boulevard between Southeast 23rd Avenue and Southeast 24th Avenue within the boundaries of the East CRA District. The existing commercial building was constructed in 1961, historically developed as an office, and has remained vacant for an extended period. The last business tax receipt on file was for a real estate office, which was inactivated in 2007. The applicant purchased the property in 2025 and proposes to renovate it for medical office use. The property currently contains 3 deeded parking spaces that are part of the parking area shared with adjacent commercial properties. Due to the lot configuration, only these 3 spaces are associated with the parcel. The applicant proposes to reconfigure the existing spaces to provide 2 parking spaces, including 1 ADA-compliant accessible space. The surrounding area contains several commercial office properties that share a common parking area. However, each property maintains its own deeded parking spaces. According to the applicant, attempts to secure a shared parking agreement with neighboring property owners were unsuccessful. The property is located within the Transit-Oriented East Overlay District, that's the TOEOD, which encourages walkability and multimodal access. The TOEOD allows on-street parking along adjacent street frontages to count towards a portion of the required parking for non-residential uses. Off-site parking may also be permitted within a specified distance of the primary use. The applicant identified on-street parking along Southeast 24th Avenue with approximately 23 spaces within walking distance and connected to the site via sidewalks and marked street crossings. The variance would facilitate the reuse and renovation of an existing commercial building constructed prior to the adoption of current parking standards. Redevelopment of the site for a medical office use requires substantial investment to bring the structure up to modern building standards. The applicant asserts that the narrow configuration of the parcel and the limited number of deeded parking spaces constitute extraordinary and exceptional conditions affecting the property. Staff notes that many properties developed prior to modern parking regulations may experience similar constraints. The requested variance represents a significant reduction in off-street parking from 11 spaces to 2. However, staff notes the redevelopment of older structures often presents challenges in meeting current parking requirements, and the property's location in the TOEOD, where reduced parking and alternative arrangements are encouraged, supports walkability and redevelopment along major corridors. And while the reduction from 11 to 2 off-street parking spaces is substantial, the TOEOD allows alternative parking arrangements. The site will provide 1 ADA compliant space for one standard space. On-street parking along Southeast 24th Avenue provides approximately 23 spaces within walking distance and connected via sidewalks and marked pedestrian crossings. Staff does not anticipate that this reduction will create unsafe conditions or adversely impact neighboring properties or pedestrian or vehicular circulation. Again, there are 8 variance review standards. The applicant has addressed each of these in detail in the narrative in your backup. And should the board determine that the applicant has provided competent and substantial evidence to satisfy those 8 variance review standards, staff recommends the board include the following 5 conditions as part of the order. 1, the variance approval shall be limited to the proposed 2,179 square foot medical office use as described in the application materials. Any change in use or increase in floor area that results in greater parking demand shall require review for compliance with the zoning code or additional approval by the appropriate review authority. 2, the site shall provide a minimum of 2 off-street parking spaces, including 1 ADA compliant accessible parking space in accordance with accessibility requirements. 3, the applicant shall obtain all required governmental permits and approvals, including but not limited to building permit and zoning compliance approvals prior to occupancy of the structure. 4, all site improvements, including parking configuration, striping, and signage, shall be installed in accordance with the approved site plan submitted as part of this variance application. And the 5th recommended staff condition, if parking impacts associated with the use are determined by the city to create unsafe or obstructive conditions on adjacent streets, the property owner may be required to implement additional parking management measures. That concludes my report, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Go ahead.
He said everything I was about to say. I don't have a lot to say about this except for just a couple items. As I'd like to reiterate, the building was built in 1961. The building is 18 feet wide. That's why they would get granted 2 deeded parking spots in the rear of the building. When the building was built, it was used for an office building. Office buildings, professional office in the city code requires, today it would require 6 parking spaces. For a medical office, 11 parking spaces are required. Medical offices require 1 space per 200 square feet. That's double what a professional office requires. This is not a medical office where you're going to see 15 waiting rooms with people crammed in the lobby and just like that. This is a small medical office. I'd like to draw your attention, if you could turn to page 2 on the narrative. It shows the aerial where the off-site parking spaces are. And that's a very important part of what Scott read earlier. The parking impact analysis. Staff does not anticipate that this reduction will create unsafe conditions, adversely impact neighboring properties, or pedestrian or vehicular standards. The off-street parking is only for commercial properties. There are no residential properties on the street. Staff mentioned that I did contact the area property owners to see if we could create some sort of a shared parking agreement. There's several problems with that. I talked to every single property owner in the neighborhood. They all know that Pompano Beach requires a 50-year shared parking agreement. That's the term for shared parking, 50 years long. I didn't talk to anyone that was under 65 years old. So nobody was willing to do that. Many of the property owners, they did say, well, you know, our buildings are vacant. You can use our parking lot. Well, we can't do that. And then when I read the code and find out we're in the transit-oriented district, and we have, in the code, it says, off-site parking developed in compliance with the standards in section 155. Off-site parking is permitted with the following modifications. Only non-residential uses may provide parking spaces off-site. A maximum of 100% of required parking spaces may be located off-site. So when Dr. Laura came into the city last fall, she came into development services to look at this before she purchased it, and she made several visits to development services. Somehow, the parking wasn't mentioned, and she moved forward. She spent just over $500,000 to buy this building. Then she hired Wayne Farrell, an architect, to design plans. The building has been vacant 20-some years. So Wayne did a complete set of new drawings for a medical office, and Dr. Laura hired a German contractor. He applied for the permits with the city, and they started the review process, and the parking came up very quickly. You don't have enough parking. So the architect called me. I've been before this board, not this particular board, but the board that Dan Yaffe ran for many years. And once I looked at the code, I realized that the transit-oriented development fit this project to a T because there's no other options for parking. On page 2, when you're looking at the aerial view, you see the turquoise lines. That represents 23 parking spaces on the street. The next street to the west, the city of Pompano Beach has a big tennis court, lots of parking. There's another almost 40 spaces over there. There was nobody there during the day. I've never seen anyone using the courts or parking there. So there's plenty of parking on street nearby. the street crossings, they're all marked. And then we get down to the 8 criteria, you must meet in order to be approved. Would you like me to read through these? Has everybody read these 8 criteria?
Yes.
You have, okay. I just want to point out on B, extraordinary exceptional conditions applicable to this property because Ms. Quitt brought that up in the last hearing, and what's exceptional about this project and this particular building is it was developed in 1961 with 3 parking spaces. Now, I didn't see any ADA parking spaces in the neighborhood, so we decided we'll create 2 parking spaces. I'll put a new ADA space in the rear and 1 other space. Dr. Laura has 3 staff members on a daily basis. So, and there's only 4 offices in this building, 4 different waiting rooms. I'd like to bring to mind, this variance does not confer any special privilege because the building was built under city code standards in 1961, so normally would be considered a non-conforming with respect to the parking. The other criteria, I'm going to go through them very quickly. On C, extraordinary exceptional conditions referred to in paragraph A. Yes, the building has been vacant for over 25 years. The new owner intends to invest substantial monies to bring a dilapidated structure up to modern standards. That's the very essence of sustainability. This whole block on the south side of Atlantic, every single building to the south of Dr. Laura's is vacant. The buildings on the west side of her, they're vacant. If you look at the aerial, you won't see any cars in those parking lots. The only building that has a tenant is the one on the east side. That's a CPA company. Then we get to, on F, the variance is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the code and preserves its spirit. The answer to that is yes. In this case, the TOD district regulations promote on-street parking and the use of off-site parking or shared parking where existing development impedes new uses and structures. So the code suggests that I didn't think I needed a variance when I read the code and the transit-oriented development. It said, oh, you can park off-site. You don't have to park on the site. I thought, okay, great. I was ready to call the doctor and say, look, you're good to go. And then I called Scott first, luckily, and went through the variance process, and here we are. So I'll take questions from the floor.
This is open to the public. Is there anyone that would like to speak for the petition? Is there anyone that'd like to speak against the petition? Okay. Close the public. Board discussion.
How many staff members did you say will occupy the business on a
3.
day-to-day? 3? I see 10 offices, 3 offices, 3 procedure rooms, and, well, 7 procedure rooms. So that's potentially 10 patients with, or 7 patients with 3 offices and people in the waiting room.
That could be possible, yes.
So I'm just curious what the dependence on those 24 off-site parking spaces by other businesses in the area might be once the area is redeveloped and built up and built out. I would just, for patients to be driving around looking for a parking space and
We've all done that.
appointment.
I can respond to that very easily. There are no, in other words, the 6 buildings on this street, they all have their own parking lot. If you look at the aerial, they all have their own parking lot. None of those buildings will have people parking on the street. We'll be the only ones as far as I know. If you drive down that street right now, tomorrow morning, tomorrow at lunchtime, you won't see any cars on that street. The other thing is all 6 buildings to the south of us, they all have for lease or sale signs on them. Obviously, they're vacant, there's nobody parking there, but they do have parking lots for their own building.
Do you know if any of those other parking spots associated with those other buildings have signage or anything restricting parking to those particular buildings?
Yes, the other buildings have no signage saying keep out, no trespassing, nothing of that nature. The on-street parking spaces are city-owned, they're striped, there's no parking meters there.
Thank you.
I'm just curious with the staff conditions, how can you even enforce them? It says, you know, that they're gonna have to, they can only do it for a certain amount of time and if the business changes, but how is anybody supposed to know when the business changes, if it does?
We get a zoning use certificate and then a business tax receipt, and we always look at parking as part of the, if it's a different use. If it's, you know, the same medical use, fine. If it's a new use, we see is it more intensive, what's the parking requirement, and then,
It would be reviewed again.
yeah.
Okay.
For an example, if the business was wildly successful and she bought the big building next door, and this little dinky building became a countertop diner with 35 bar stools in it, they would never be approved. They would have to come in to get their zoning use certificate and their BRT. And Development Services would certainly pick up that it's a restaurant and they're required to have much more parking than a medical use.
I mean, what exactly type of medical building or business is it where, I mean, it's
Type of medical?
yeah, what kind of medical office?
General?
Internal medicine?
I'm sorry. There we go. Yes.
Just remember, we are being televised as well as you're being recorded. So if there's any comments that are made from the gallery, if you let me say, it's not heard. So, and nor are you identified when you make those statements. So we just need to make sure if you're going to make a statement that this board takes into consideration, you need to make it from the mic.
Understood.
How will patients know where to park?
I'm sure the doctor will instruct her patients when they phone in for appointments.
Drive around and look for on-street parking?
Like I said, there was no cars parked on the street at midday. It's a small office building. It's a very small structure. It has a huge parking lot that she shares with two other buildings adjacent to her. One building is vacant completely, and the building on the east is a small CPA firm. They use 2 parking spaces out of their, I think they have 10 spaces. They only use 2. Again, I had a very cordial visit with that CPA, and he was willing to let the doctor use his parking lot. Again, he was hesitant, or he absolutely would not sign a shared parking agreement because of the 50-year period. So, my guess is that I don't think the city gets very many of those. And luckily, the TOD district does allow on-street parking. So here we are.
The only thing I have is that, so once, you said there's other, the other bays are all empty or buildings are empty, but once they get filled, what's?
I'm sorry?
The other buildings are empty right now next to them? And the parkings are open, but once they start getting filled up, someone might come there, you know, where are they gonna start parking? Because everyone's gonna park on the street, of course, because they're not gonna know that there's back parking. So that would be my concern, that, you know, if other places come there, what's gonna
That
happen?
could be possible. If you look at the aerial that I provided on page 2, you will see that every single building has a very nice-sized parking lot with their own building. So unless they throw Jeff Bezos' wedding and they have hundreds of people coming, they won't need the off-street parking.
Who's parking, let me ask you a question, hold on one second. Whose parking is behind the building, across the way, there's more parking spots?
I mean, to the east.
And I come up here, or
Flanagan?
I
Is
approach?
1 second, I'm gonna try to find it here.
that Flanagan's over there?
Are you looking at the aerial that Development Services provided at the end of its report? No, I'm talking to the chair right now. If you look at the aerial that's provided by staff, that might be of assistance to you.
Yeah, I can put this up on the,
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Little projector.
Yes, that's it. That is exactly what I'm looking at. So after that, the black behind the building, there's parking spots. Is that the 2 parking spots? There's like 10 across the back there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Which building are we talking about? The one?
Your building, with the black lines, right? And then behind it, there's like 10 or 12 parking spots straight against the bushes. Whose are all those spots?
Those belong to the CPA that's on the east side of the subject property.
So you guys, no one can park there.
Anybody can park there.
Okay.
Saying that CPA only has 2 people, 2 employees, and he's got 8 or 10 parking spaces. So nobody uses those on a daily basis.
Any other?
so yeah, that parking south of those 2 or 3 spaces that are specific to this property are under the ownership of the property just to the west, 2310 East Atlantic. So they have the rights to use those, not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? I need a motion, please.
I'll motion. In P and Z case 26-11000008, I move we find there is competent and substantial evidence in the record that all the requirements for granting the variance have been met, and that we grant the variance subject to the 5 conditions requested by staff.
Need a second?
Second.
Mr. Chair, if I may, one of the things I mentioned to Scott is that the city has a parking manager, and that particular individual is designated with the task to sort of regulate the city's parking, which this would be very key to. And so one of the things that I think if this board is willing is to make sure that some of this discussion is subject to the parking manager's involvement, because there are other spinning plates, if you allow me to say it that way, that may be impacted if the board should approve this without their involvement or subject to their consent. Because again, the board is may or may not be aware of all of the parking issues that are occurring along Atlantic. And if I understand the orientation of the graph or the picture that's on the screen, this is very close to the proposed McNabb improvements. And again, nothing against the applicant, but I think the city's parking manager will need to be a part of that approval process because of the dramatic impact it may have on the available parking in that area.
So we add that to approve it?
My recommendation would be that be subject to the parking manager's approval, only because, again, it removes from his, trying to think of his sort of basket of parking spaces that he may need to utilize, which I don't know, but I know that there are issues related to utilizing city parking spaces, and that parking manager needs to be a part of that conversation. And I discussed earlier with Scott that I don't believe he's been involved in any of these discussions related to this parcel. Alternatively, if the applicant is willing, rather than having this go forward with being subject to, you could postpone this, allow the parking manager to have an input as to what occurs. It may not be a negative, it may be a very positive, but he needs to be a part of that discussion, and I would hate for the board to put something in play and the city not have that opportunity, because they're not here tonight.
Yes, no, I agree with you, but can we add that to this if we agreed? I don't, it's not open. Wanna open it?
Yes, you can open it back. It's
Okay,
up-
we'll open it back up. If you can come to the microphone, or this one over here where this gentleman is, please.
Okay, my name is Sabrina Lima. I'm the general contractor on this project. My address is 6448 Rock Beauty Terrace, Margate, Florida 33063. And I just want to mention before you guys move forward with the voting is that she has total control of her schedule. So I was born and raised in New York, and we look for parking for everything. Florida is a blessing, okay? So yeah, it's going to be inconvenient that they have to look, but they're not going to schedule 7 patients at 10 o'clock. You know, like they're gonna have control on not only the rooms, because it's not that big, but also being aware that parking is an issue. So I just want you guys to understand, we're not here to bring problems. We're here to make this building that's abandoned and disgusting beautiful and bring life back to that, at least that street. Okay, so I want you guys to please take that into consideration because my permit is almost approved and I really want to move forward with this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if I may say, all of these applications go to the CRA. They typically only send us memos of opposition if they have a problem. We didn't receive anything from the CRA.
I did get one memo from the fire department. They said they had no issue with this. No comment.
So discussion, do you want to add what Mr. Saunders said to to one of the narratives would be, or to add that, or do you want to just vote on it from what we have now?
So I just want to understand, sorry. If we vote it through, it's a stipulation based on the parking manager advice of his expertise.
And then he would have to approve it.
And if we say no and it's voted down, that's it for them. There's no revisiting the situation.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Can I ask Scott a question, or am I closed?
No, you can ask him.
Okay, so if the variance is approved, and then our building permit's issued, and we're going through our inspections and so forth, and the parking manager came down and said, this isn't working. Can we back up? In other words, could he nullify the variance and we come up with another possible solution? Or we offered to buy the grassy lot to the south and the east that one of these building owners owns, and we thought, well, we'll buy that lot, we'll make the parking improvements and create a cross-access. He said he's owned the property 30-some years, he wasn't interested in selling for any price. So my question is, can the parking manager overturn the variance at a later date, and then would we have an opportunity to come up with another scenario? That seems to be an overriding concern here.
I think that's a legal question. We're kind of an uncharted territory where the board votes on something and then it's contingent on, an employee.
Yeah, that's the reason why I cautioned the board, because again, the city's availability of parking is an issue, and there is a staff member responsible for sort of monitoring and improving areas that are utilized for public parking. What you're basically, the request that's before the board tonight is, hey, we're in a certain location that does provide for use of some of this public parking, but you're talking about utilizing it on a permanent basis, basically, because you're going to obtain a variance that allows you to be able to utilize or provide parking by utilizing public parking. And
Okay,
and my concern was that by this board looking at that issue, that it's not benefited by the involvement of the parking manager who has the responsibility over those parking spaces. So my recommendation was, rather than have the board rule on something tonight, giving you, your client, the applicants, an opportunity to have that discussion so that the city doesn't lose out. We're not caught in a situation where there is development and someone, because it will possibly create, based upon the development that's occurring in that area, it could create a problem. And so rather than have the city have that problem, the recommendation was to allow the parking manager to have some involvement. Now, if the applicant decided to do otherwise and look at other alternatives, that's solely left up to you. I'm just suggesting, the board's purposes, understand that the parking manager is not aware, that I'm aware, of this issue or this particular application. And because it does involve public parking and the impact, I think he has to be involved in that discussion.
Well, he should have been aware. I mean, it's obvious, it's in the code.
No, sir.
And, this was a public application. There's two safety nets here for the board, two safety nets. One is condition number 5. It says, if parking impacts associated with the use are determined by the city to create unsafe or obstructive conditions or on adjacent streets, the property owner may be required to implement additional parking management measures. That's one safety net. The second safety net is we have to get a zoning certificate of use. So at that point, I'm sure the city parking manager, who I've never met or heard of, would be aware of the fact that we are using on-street parking. We did follow city procedure, obtain the variance. We do meet the code requirements for the variance. We meet all 8 criteria for the variance. And again, the city has 2 chances after the fact to make us comply in a different manner. And for those reasons, I hesitate to take a postponement because of the fact that we've been in for building permits for several months. So, Scott, I know what happens if we're approved. If we're denied, how long would it be before we can come back before the board?
1 year to ask for a substantially similar variance request.
Okay, so
Can I say something? We are talking about hypothetical right now, right? So eventually McNabb is going to be improved, and eventually this may cause a problem. But eventually the CPA could move, and eventually she could buy his building. Eventually, maybe we can get more parking from him. So there's a lot of ifs. And I would just hate for this to not move forward because of what if is going to happen. What we know now is that this building has been shut down and closed for 25 years. It is a nuisance, it's ugly, it's not good. So we're trying to come in and to make it better. So I think that thinking about in a few years or what's gonna happen, we don't know what's gonna happen. But we're here to work with the city, we're here to do what needs to be done, we just need this to move forward.
Can I ask a quick question of the applicants? Is this the first time you've heard about this parking manager and possibly having a conversation with them? This is the first time at your hearing today?
Well, I believe Scott mentioned that they are aware of this, correct?
The CRA is aware of this, and he works with the CRA in addition, but not just the CRA. He works,
So can you confirm, Scott, that in fact this parking manager is not aware of this whatsoever?
I have no idea if
Like if you've sent it to the CRA and you said he works with the CRA, Like, would this go, how does it get before him, is my question. And why is this the first time being brought up to the applicant at the hearing today?
Right. So, and again, I can't speak to the travel of this application, but I can speak to the parking manager. The parking manager may have some discussions over time with the CRA, but his primary function is not CRA related. He is responsible for public parking, period. So you have parking that is on the beach, all the way from Ocean to basically Old Town, which is right across the street, and as far north as, I'm trying to think of all the public places that we have parking. But that's his responsibility. And if you've been watching, this board has been watching the discussions in the commission and everywhere else, parking has become a major issue, particularly on the east side, particularly. And we are right now in the, there's some flux that's taking place. And so I've had lots of discussions with him. I have, in fact, texted him since we've been here to see if he's aware, and I don't have confirmation of that or not. But I just don't think this board should put another department, city department, in a situation where if this board were to approve it, potentially, you approve, and then the parking manager comes along and says, I can't have those uses. Right now, they're not being paid, but we're going to put in meters. Now, they've got clients that are coming that are saying, why are we, and they're unable to meet their parking requirement. It just creates additional discussions which this board will have no control over, and I'm not so sure the department will have control over. It will be a parking manager issue. That's why I suggested, again, I'm not sure why the hesitancy to postpone to the very next meeting, but again, that's the applicant's choice.
I'm going to make a request to postpone right now.
Yeah,
I'm making a request to postpone because, Mr. Saunders, you put the fear of God in me to approve this variance. This parking manager is not here. He should be here. It's his responsibility. I can't deal with that. He should have been here. He should be written up if he was supposed to be here.
No,
So I'm asking for a postponement. I
with you, sir, for a
respectfully
second.
request.
I appreciate your advocacy, but what you need to understand is that this particular application was not on his radar. And I don't believe the Development Services was aware that the parking manager may be impacted by this.
That may be. I've been on the city staff myself 15 years,
And sometimes that happens.
so I understand how things get missed. Nevertheless, we should have a slam dunk here, I'm sorry to say, but we're going to request a postponement and we'll come back next month. Hopefully the parking manager will offer a written memo.
Well,
in
what
support
I
of
would
the
suggest
code.
is, again, it's just my recommendation. This board can do whatever it wants to do, but I think I will, after this meeting, I will gladly provide you his name and number, and feel free to reach out to him so that you can have that direct discussion. As you know, the city is closed tomorrow, but I think Monday morning, he's there early. He has an office. In fact, he's here on the weekends in the beach's parking garage.
Just one thing I want to say before we ask for postponement is that it's to the point where if we don't get this variance, she will have to sell and the building will continue to be the way that it is. And one day, if McNabb gets fixed and what if improvement happens and you guys need the parking, it would all be there waiting for you. But if not, and it doesn't happen right now, then that building could have been improved and the city could have been better, and it's not going to be because there's no way she can continue with that building.
And again, I just, for purpose of the record, because I think it's important to understand, that this board is only approving a variance assuming the application meets all of the criteria. I know the applicant is zealous and advocating its position. This board has not made a determination. I only interjected the fact of the parking manager because I'm intimately involved with him on several parking matters, and he's not involved in this process. And so, again, I apologize to the applicant, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring that to the board's attention, have that development order go forward, and then our office hears the scuttlebutt as it relates to public parking. So again, it's a difficult thing that I'm saying, but I think in the end, it helps the city be in the best position. Any development, I'm pretty sure the commissioner for the district would resoundingly say that development, at least this type, is something that she would welcome. I am only saying to you, all eyes need to be involved prior to this board possibly entering into a development order that conflicts with the city's objective, parking objective at least. So that's, again, the only thing I would suggest.
Can I ask another question of you, James? I'm sorry. Is there any way to confirm for the applicant then that in the next month, if they do request the continuance, that they will in fact have this conversation with the parking manager? I don't want them to request a postponement and then
Here's what
nothing happens, or they reach out and there's no response.
I
Seems frustrating, I can imagine, for the applicant.
I completely understand. If this board is willing to give me a 5-minute recess, I will obtain that answer, and that way, before the applicant leaves, we'll have a resolution to that.
I will, but I just have one question. Number 5 that he read off, though, it does state in there that if an issue comes with parking, that there'll be another issue. It's already in there pretty much, isn't it? If we approve it and then the manager comes through and says that there's not enough parking, that this can't go through.
Here's the problem with that analysis. All of the analysis we're talking about is post.
Okay.
And it also does not take into consideration that there may not necessarily be an unsafe or obstructive, there may be another reason.
Okay.
And so I feel uncomfortable putting the board in the position to be
I
at
respect
odds with parking manager. If you give me 5 minutes, recess.
We'll take a recess for 5 minutes. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have an opportunity to speak to the city's parking manager. He knows this area, has worked along with the CRA on some components of this area, and is more than willing to have that discussion. Just so the board is aware, he is not included in these development discussions as far as the impact on public parking. But he is knowledgeable of that area, has been working with different entities in that area and advised me that he'd be more than willing to have a conversation with you. Just so you know, his name is Jeff Lance. I don't have his card, so you may want to copy down the information. Lance, last name is Lantz. His office number, and he'll be there on Monday. His office number is 954-786-5580. Jeff Lance at 954-786-5580, and he is more than willing to have a conversation with you about this situation.
Did you have a discussion with him?
I made him aware of the item, the location, and the requirement for parking. And he seemed to suggest that there may be something that can be done. I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Something can be done?
Can.
CAN.
But again, I don't want to put words in his mouth on what that may mean. So that's why I'm suggesting, first thing on Monday morning, have that conversation with him about it.
Well, we all have schedules. Also, it's my understanding that the parking manager is generally directed by the commissioners on certain areas, normally around the beach area, not out where we are. But, okay, so well, obviously, we have to take a postponement. I'm sorry he is not here or did not look at the map and the criteria. I'm sorry, I've wasted all your time. So do we have an official postponement?
Yes, do we have a date for the following month, correct?
April 16th is the next CBA meeting.
So April 16th, it'll be postponed till.
Thank you.
To vote on
We
it.
have to vote on it.
We do have a motion on the floor already, so if anyone would like to amend the motion.
Yep, so I amend the motion to postpone this P&Z case 2611000008 to April 16th, 2026.
Need a second.
Second. We're on.
Any other discussion? Meredith, can you call the roll?
Nicole Henniger,
Yes.
Karen Berger,
Yes.
Penny Cutt,
Yes.
Jack A. Hawkins,
Yes.
Allison Morales,
Yes.
Joe Circusi.
Yes.
Thank you.
April 16th, 2026.
So it's been postponed.
And just so the board's aware, depending on what the resolution is, this item may not come back, because there may not be a need to obtain the variance. Okay? So if it does not come back, I don't want this board to, I think Scott or myself can make an announcement to the board as to what may have occurred during reports. I just want you to be aware that it may be a possibility this item may not come back because the variance would not be needed.
Plus, we would have to redo everything because we have 3 alternates tonight.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, I can get that for you.
Does anyone have any other items they would like to discuss? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.